And now it's time for the No New Friends podcast with Scott, Mary, and Chris.
Come on at 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
That's right, you're listening to the No New Friends podcast, voted number 1 by our friends and family. We are the podcast for adults who like to laugh at adulting. If you'd like to connect with us, all of our social media links, the Facebook, the Instagram, the YouTube, are on our website. You can also join our Patreon or check out our sweet merchandise. That is nonewfriendspodcast.com. If you listen to us on Apple, please give us a rating and a 5-star review. We love that stuff. Also, if you listen to us on Spotify, there's a poll or a question associated with each episode in the last 10 to 20 episodes. Feel free to answer the question, answer the poll. If we like an answer to your question, if it makes us laugh, we may read it on air and you could win a prize. Who knows? We've got a prize in the prize bin. So this episode is going to be a little bit different because just like Han, I'm going solo. That's right. This is a solo episode. It's going to be a real quick episode, but with the holiday season and our work schedules, there was just no way that we could get together to put out this last episode of the year. So I wanted to take an opportunity to do a couple things. First of all, I want to let our audience know kind of a little bit more about me, not just the goofy stuff about the things that I do in the neighborhood or my quirky personality. Broadcasting, radio, whether it's radio or podcasting, has been a lifelong dream of mine. And this is kind of fulfilling my dream. The response that we've gotten, our popularity, the listeners have exceeded my goals and expectations for the first year. But I remember when I was a kid setting up those little intercoms around the house with a friend of mine and doing a radio show. This was at a very, very young age. And then when getting into Howard Stern and watching Howard Stern's Private Parts was just kind of another thing that increased my love of broadcasting. And then I'm a huge fan of, in Orlando, Real Radio 104.1. You can also hear all of their shows on iHeartRadio. I got to meet some of those guys and I was just like, this is what I wanted to do. So this podcast is, it's a lot of fun. We try to make you laugh. We try to keep you entertained, but it's more for me. This is just a lifelong dream that I'm trying to fulfill. And there's a lot of people that I want to thank. This is our last episode of 2021. And we've got a lot of things planned that are going to be really exciting for 2022. We're going to be doing kind of a really fun recap episode where we recap kind of things that happened from history time to the present, and then talk about some other things, which should be a lot of fun. But I want to thank some people who have kind of supported us, made this thing happen, and contributed to our success and whatnot. So first of all, our sponsors. This is not this is a dream, this is a hobby, but it's also not free. There are expenses associated with podcasting, and I try to spend money where it's going to enhance the quality of the show. For example, when Mary and I first started this show, up until about episode 22, we had some crappy microphones. I had a crappy microphone. Mary was using her iPhone, and the first thing we wanted to purchase was some new microphones. Well, we were lucky enough to get microphones donated to us, or a sponsor, if you will, supported us, and that's Mainline Marketing. Mainline Marketing gave us these great Shure microphones. If you're looking to get into podcasting, you've got a little bit of money to spend, get a Shure microphone. They're fantastic. Microphones that we have are not actually made for podcasting. They're more made for like Zoom meetings. But as you can hear, our sound quality is great. So we wanted to bring you top-notch entertainment, top-notch quality, and our sponsors really help us do that. We've transitioned from Zoom to Riverside.fm, which helps us bring better sound while recording virtually and in different places. So our sponsors, I Believe Services. If you're looking to have your house clean, you're looking to hire some cleaners, and you live in the Central Florida area, give I Believe Services a call. They can be reached ibelieveservices.us, and their contact information is on their website. I've had neighbors, family members, we've been using them, and they do a fantastic job. They're super flexible. They will work around your schedule. Also want to shout out Team Gina. That's the Gina McReynolds Foundation, teamgina.org. It's a fantastic organization that benefits families who they've got someone, they've got their mother, or in some cases father, going through breast cancer, and they just need a little bit of support. Please check them out. That's teamgina.org. So now I'd also like to thank some reoccurring guests that we've had on this show, some guests who have supported us either by coming on to provide some additional entertainment or whatnot. And that's from Real Laughs, James Yon and Miguel Colon Jr. Please support their show. That's Real Laughs on Real Radio 104.1. They're also on iHeart or any other place that you get your podcast. And if you're in the Central Florida area, follow them on Facebook and find out when they are performing and check out their gigs. They are super, super funny comedians. I can't say enough about how funny they are. So please try to visit them, support them by listening to Real Laughs. Also, Katie Hessen-Fuss, who is a friend of Mary and mine, and she was our first guest that we ever had on the show, and super entertaining. She's a super big fan of the podcast. So thank you, Katie. Now we're going to get into some other content creators. Remy from Remy's Roundtable. Funny story, and we've kind of talked about this before. When I was working at a family entertainment center, Remy came out and interviewed us when we had our opening. And that's where I met Remy. And I knew we were going to be doing a theme park episode back when the phallic chimney was removed at Morocco at Epcot. And I reached out to Remy. Hey, Remy, can you come on our show? We'd love to have you. And that opened up so many doors for us meeting Remy. Because then Remy had us on his other show that he does, and that was Diz Journey. And that's where I met a couple of great people. But before I move from them, I just want to say thank you, Remy, for supporting our show. Remy is also a Patreon member, a fan of our show. And thank you for having me on your show several times, Remy's Roundtable. And that's on all streaming platforms. And then also Diz Journey. So the night that Remy came on our show, he invited us on Diz Journey. So Mary and I went on to Diz Journey, which was, it doesn't exist anymore except for some special occasions. You can hear those old episodes on the Remy's Roundtable podcast. And he introduced us to Joe and Alex from the Diz His podcast. And then also our very own scumbag reselling hoarder, Chris, our producer. And I'll get to more about Chris in a minute. So Remy introduced us to Joe and Alex and Chris, and that Joe and Alex are the next two guys that I want to thank. Joe and Alex from the Diz His podcast, and they have been super supportive. The Diz His podcast has been around for about 2 years, and it is a very, very successful podcast. It's in the top 100 must listen to Disney podcasts, and they're actually in the top 20. It's a great podcast. If you haven't listened to it yet, please check it out. It is all about Disney history. Okay. So it's not Disney news. It's not Disney rumors. It's Disney history on your favorite attractions, your favorite restaurants, movies, you name it. They do a history on it. They're about 130 episodes in. It's highly entertaining. Please check them out. That's Diz His podcast. You can connect with them on social media, DizHis65. Check out their website, dizhis.com. So from there, Dane from Big Beautiful Disney. Dane came on to the episode, the one when Mary had a bad hair day, and he's also been on one of our content creator spotlights. Dane is so fascinating. Dane is a 17-year-old who is a Disney enthusiast, and he's got some great YouTube videos. So check those out. Big Beautiful Disney on YouTube. Does a bunch of behind the scenes stuff. It's really, really fascinating. He recreated the Wonders of Life Pavilion experience on one of his YouTube videos, and it's unbelievable. We also have the Erica Rivera, the host of the podcast Sexpertise. She came on to our podcast for 2 different episodes to bring us some sexual health advice and answer all of our sexual questions in 2 extremely entertaining episodes, the Belly Dancing Sex Guru and then Don't Yuck My Yum. And now she has started her own podcast that's called Sexpertise. That can be found on Spotify and it's such a great podcast. A little bit more on the serious side because she tackles some serious topics and then some fun topics as well. I listen to it a lot. She's super entertaining. She does a solo show, and so we wish her all the best. And please check her out and support her, the Erica Rivera, and her show is called Sexpertise. Next thing I want to do is I want to thank our Patreon members. Okay, so our very first Patreon member was before we even had Patreon. Supported us through Anchor, and that's Chris Kelleher. And I ran a commercial for about 8 weeks straight thanking him. So I still don't want to stop thanking him because he still supports us through Anchor. Next, we have Joe from the Diz His podcast. Joe and Emily were our first 2 Patreon members and kind of got the ball rolling for us. So we thank them. Next is Autumn, then Mark, Remy, Dane, and Ryan. So thank you, all the Patreon members. And no, I have not forgotten Jared. So Jared is our top. He's on our top tier Patreon. So that's $20 per month. And Jared, I don't think has ever missed a recording of one of our episodes. Super big fan, super great guy. Joe from Diz His and I got a chance to see him do a presentation at his train society, and it was fascinating. It was about the old train lines in St. Andrews, Scotland. Chris was watching virtually at home through YouTube, but Jared has been such a great. It's great to record an episode and watch Jared's reactions as we're joking around and as Chris and Mary are goofing on us. So Jared, we appreciate you more than you realize. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for watching week after week. It's nice to be performing to an audience and doing this for an audience and actually seeing our jokes land, or in many cases, my jokes not land. Next, we have, so moving from Patreon members, I started telling the story about how we met Joe and Alex and Chris, and that was on Diz Journey. And we immediately fell in love with those guys. And Mary and I had been discussing having a third member. Oh, I forgot to mention Craig Brooks. Craig Brooks from Tasty Trivia, who's come on a couple shows and did our 70th. Craig has been a huge Miguel Colon Jr. Craig and James Yon have been mentors of mine without really realizing it. You know, James and Miguel being in radio, and James and Miguel being in entertainment and performance, and then Craig being a successful entrepreneur, just doing a startup with just doing trivia and bingo and clear pong, and now he's built this. He won't say it, but empire, if you will, in the Orlando area, and everything that he touches turns to gold. So thank you, Craig, for being a member. And then also Craig hooked us up with Mainline Marketing. So he made that connection for us. So Mary and I knew that we wanted to have a third person on our show, and we wanted to have Chris, our producer, on as a guest. We hit it off with Chris so much, and the chemistry was there right off the bat, that I was like, we've got to have this guy. And it was a simple conversation. And Chris, you want to come on? He's like, sure. Let's do it. And he's been on with us more. He's been in more episodes than he hasn't been. So he joined us on episode 23, I believe. And that's Drunk Fairy Dust and Cheap Glamour Shots. And, the No New Friends podcast would not be the No New Friends podcast without Chris. Super funny. And as you know, my favorite segments are the segments that are led by his stories, because he's got such a unique way of telling stories. So Chris, thank you for being here. Thank you for putting up with my crazy and, answering text messages. Hey, can you do this? And he'll throw together a graphic, or he'll throw together a streaming thing. And he's responsible for all of our graphics, our streaming, and all the technology outside of editing behind this show. Finally, truly, there would not be a No New Friends podcast without my best friend, my partner in crime, Mary. So you've all heard the story. One day, I just wanted to test recording on Zoom. I said, hey, can you join me for a 20-minute conversation? Just going to record it. If it's good, maybe I'll post it as a podcast. It'll probably never see the light of day, but we'll see. Here we are, 78 episodes later, and she's still here. Mary is the heart of this podcast. She's what makes it super entertaining. Her and Chris both. But, the core of this podcast is Mary, and these are Mary and my everyday FaceTime conversations that we just clue you into. The stories that you hear us tell on the podcast are very similar to the stories that we'd be telling each other. So, Mary, thank you for dealing with my temper tantrums when we can't record. My crazy, pulling you in and having you do 3 episodes a week, which was crazy at one time that we were doing that. The switcheroo, hey, we're going to record tonight at 7, and she gets that text at 5. And, Mary is a mom. She's got a full-time job. And a lot of times she gets off the sun rail and then turns on her computer and boom, we're going. And, Mary is helping me support my dream and my dream in broadcasting or podcasting. And this show would not be what it is without Mary. So Mary, Chris, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for dealing with my crazy and my passion and being part of this journey. So look, that's all I have. I just wanted to take this went a lot longer than I thought it would. I didn't think I could talk for 15 minutes straight, but here we are. I just wanted to take an opportunity to thank everybody because some of you are new listeners and may not have heard different guests or different contributors, supporters, whatnot. So I just wanted to take a minute to just kind of go through the list. And if you heard something and you're like, I don't remember hearing that interview, go through our episodes and check those out. They're great episodes. One of my favorite episodes with Craig Brooks is Politics, Pimples, and Pleasures, especially that second segment. It is so funny. So again, follow us on social media, the Instagram, no.new.friends.podcast, Facebook, No New Friends Podcast, YouTube. There's some very funny videos. Mary's reaction to the Game of Thrones Red Wedding. You can email us, www.patreon.com. Check out our Patreon. That's www.patreon.com/nonewfriendspodcast. Check out our sweet merchandise. You can do that through our website. We've got some Christmas designs, although this is a little bit after Christmas. And stay tuned next year where we've got a lot of things planned, a lot of things that we're going to try to do. It should be a great year. It should be a lot of funny episodes. And also, if you love these episodes, please share them with your friends. The best marketing for us is word of mouth. That is how podcasts survive. That is how podcasts grow. Please share our episodes. Please tell everybody about the No New Friends podcast. We appreciate it more than you know. This show is nothing without our listeners, and we appreciate you tuning in every single week and sharing the episodes word of mouth or on social media. Just know that we appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I think that's it. So Happy New Year. We'll be back with regular episodes starting next week. And on behalf of Mary and Chris, I'm Scott. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.
Okay, bye.